Everyone, yes, 19th January 2022. Let's see which are the important articles from the Hindu newspaper. Largely today's articles we will try to take input for prelims examination. Okay, on first page you can see no one died of hunger in recent times. This is the data given by or argument given by central government in the Supreme Court. Okay, so you should be aware about the government stand and the data talking about the hunger. Okay, so GS2 paper, social justice aspect is there, governance aspect is there. So hunger, malnutrition, poverty, unemployment, all these aspects are involved, and the government is having responsibility to ensure social justice, welfare. ठीक है, तो you should be aware about what is happening in the country, how the government is dealing with these challenges. Okay, then now directly come to the page number 6, editorial page. Editorial on left hand side, inflation conundrum. Recently CPI and WPI data for December month was released, right? So the analysis is given in this article. From economy perspective, GS3 paper we will have follow up. Almost every month such kind of editorial appears in the Hindu newspaper after, let's say, the CPI and WPI data comes out in the public. Okay, so rising inflation, this has been the major problem in last 6 months, 8 months, and we have to understand the causes, the consequences of this high inflation. The other articles are not that much relevant on that page, but on page number 7, escalation of the forgotten war in Yemen. Now the article discusses about the how these rebels and the kind of conflict that is going on in Yemen. Also there is one explained page, let's say article on text and context page about these Houthis and who are these Houthis and all these things. But yes, that is not relevant to our examination, GS paper at least, or prelims. Those who are having PSI or optional subject, maybe it is of their interest to read in detail. But yes, from geography mapping perspective, you should be aware about what is that Marib region over which the conflict is going on here at present between Houthi rebels and the Yemen government, which is supported by Saudi Arabia and UAE. Okay, so we will try to find out that on a map. On right hand side, preventing genocide. The context here is that recently there was various hate speeches given in the, let's say, what you can say, religious Sansad or religious Congress that was held in Uttarakhand, and because of that there are concerns related to genocide. There has been calls of, let's say, wiping out some minority communities, and such kind of things are we can say called upon by the religious leaders. Indirectly we can say, although not directly, but it may result into genocide. So it is a kind of threat that we are facing as a society. Now the article having this context talks about there is United Nations Convention on preventing such kind of genocide. Okay, so Convention on Prevention and Punishment of a Crime of Genocide of 1948. This convention, which is signed and ratified by India, but yet it has not included or enacted any kind of law which defines what is genocide or the preventive measures or the punishment, punitive measures in such law. Okay, so this is what the article is discussing about. Now for prelims examination we will take input here. What is this particular convention, when it was adopted, whether India has signed or ratified it, all these aspects are important for prelims examination. Okay. Now fine. So all these are political news. And on page number 10 there is one news, marital rape, gender neutral laws come up at National Commission for Women meet, NCW meet. Okay, so again from polity perspective, important institutions, statutory, constitutional, and we can say some of the executively created institutions like Niti Aayog and all. Fine. So that is important from polity perspective, prelims examination. We will try to understand the composition, when it was established, under what, let's say, which law or provisions of that law, then its objective, composition, all these aspects we will discuss here. NCW from prelims perspective. You can see on page number 11, rising sea levels prompt Indonesia to relocate capital. Now this can be used from two perspectives. One, from mains, one of the example for impact of climate change, sea level rise. Okay, you use this in deliberately in your answer GS1 paper. Suppose there is question talking about impact of climate change, and one of the impact is sea level rise. Okay, and this is how the island countries, some of them from the Southeast Asian nations, so they are facing this challenge now, and Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia on Java Peninsula, it is facing this threat, and now the decision is taken by the Indonesian parliament to relocate it to the Borneo island, to the interiors of that island. Okay, so it can be asked in the prelims examination from mapping perspective also. ठीक है, तो इस तरीके से मेंस और प्रीलिम्स दोनों में इनपुट लेना है यहाँ पे. ओके, on page number 12, on right hand side there is news, cyber attacks surge as COVID spurs digital push. Now this is important from two perspectives. Again, for prelims perspective, what is this report? It is given by World Economic Forum, Global Cyber Security Outlook 2022. It can be asked in prelims examination that the following report, or this particular report is released by which of the following organization? Okay, international organization. So you should be aware about that. The options can be World Bank, OECD, IMF, World Economic Forum. Right, this type of questions have been already asked by UPSC in prelims examination. Okay, so we will also try to know which are the other reports by World Economic Forum. At the same time, this can be used from GS3 perspective, cyber security, part of internal security syllabus. Okay, so foundation batch recently we learned about this cyber security. Okay, so there you use this data during the pandemic time. There has been the push for online education, online activity, work from home, everything has got online, and because of that there is increased vulnerability for cyber attacks. You mentioned this fact there. Okay.
Yes, some of the problems also introducing to cybercrime only. So fraud laws.
Yes, so cyber crimes include cyber frauds, economic frauds, we can say, because of increased use of digital devices and internet. Okay, so let's take input from all these articles. First of all, mains related, inflation conundrum, the issue of rising inflation. Recently, the monthly data of CPI and WPI was released. So you should be aware about, already we had follow-up of this. So inflation is re-emerging as a threat. Retail price surged 5-month high, 5.6% in December from the earlier 4.9% in November month. Retail inflation, that is CPI data, consumer price index. And about WPI also, you should be aware the inflation of wholesale price offered a little comfort in December. It came off a record high of 14.2% in November to touch 13.6% in December. थोड़ा सा कम हुआ है. However, it has stayed above double digit since last 9 months. Successively, for 9 months, it has remained above, or we can say 10%, double digit. This is how we should understand the data. Now, along with that, within that CPI or retail inflation, the food inflation and rural inflation, we can say that it has increased. Inflation faced by rural consumers was 5.36%, the steepest pace since July 2021. Okay, so this is how the inflation has percolated to the rural areas also. Generally, it is said that in urban areas the CPI is largely vulnerable, but in rural areas also it has increased. Now, reasons we can understand: inflation in food and beverages and higher clothing and footwear prices. This has contributed to overall higher CPI, we can say. Okay. But recently the government had cut down the excise duty, central government along with state government, and because of that, to some extent it has moderated. The fuel inflation, or simply we can say fuel price rise, has to some extent moderated, but it is not sustainable. In future we can expect again rise in the fuel prices, because that is linked to the global crude oil prices. And we know that this is decommissioned. Now the market link, or simply demand and supply forces now determine the prices of petrol and diesel. Okay, so this is about, you should be aware, retail prices. Now about the wholesale prices, this is the situation, and this increase in wholesale price index, which is as producer level. The producers coping with high commodity prices and input cost will have to find the ways to pass them on to the consumers, feeding into retail inflation and squeezing household budgets further. This is how the impact of, simply we can say, wholesale price index can happen on retail index, because the prices are passed on to the consumers. Simply the wholesale price index is increasing because of increasing input cost. Input cost in terms of transportation cost, high fuel prices is there. Also input cost in terms of high, let's say, raw material or whatever the products that are used for the manufacturing purpose. And this is resulting into high wholesale price index. Along with that, recently there is boosted in the demand after the pandemic. Okay, so post pandemic level economy is we can say recovering, and because of that there is increased demand, but sufficient supply is not there. So this is demand driven inflation also to some extent, that which is visible in, we can say, WPI. Now it will be passed on to the consumer, which will result into increase in CPI. All these aspects can be asked in the prelims also. ये जो cause effect वाला relation जो है वो prelims में भी पूछा जा सकता है. Last year also they asked basic question on understanding of inflation. Okay, demand driven or cost push, demand pull inflation. So you should be aware about these basic concepts. Okay, so just a follow up about this economy aspect, inflation aspect. Now moving on. Yes. Yes.
Due to COVID situation, some of the states have been rising their internal tax. Due to that one also, the inflation and the rise of the retail price has increased now.
Yes, to some extent, if suppose, let's say the GST in some of the on some of the goods it has increased, so automatically the prices will increase. Okay, so taxes on the goods, if they are increased, even let's say taxes on the raw material, the input goods, then automatically its price increases. The input cost increases, ultimately it is passed on to the consumer.
Because of the southern states, to withstand the ability of government and financial department, they are raising the prices.
Yes, surely they are looking for revenue to deal with this pandemic, and ultimately that will be passed on to the consumer. Okay. Now, this new report, World Economic Forum's report, Global Cyber Security Outlook 2020. Okay, so for prelims examination, international organization and its reports. This is very important. You have to revise again and again. You have to mug up all these things. ठीक है, याद करके रखना है पूरा. Already UPSC asked such kind of question. There will be again the questions about this. Now, what it has found, the accelerating pace of digitalization fueled by COVID-19 pandemic has led to record-breaking year for cybercrime, with ransomware attacks rising 151% in 2021. You can use this data in your mains examination GS3 paper cyber security part. Cyber security part. we are expecting question from internal security, how COVID-19 pandemic acting as a threat to security of the country, security challenge. तो उसका एक एस्पेक्ट आप साइबर सिक्योरिटी में लाइए. Okay, so how this is as a security challenge, internal security challenge, or simply overall security challenge. So one of the aspect is this one. Okay, now other reports released by the World Economic Forum. Yes, so global risk report is there, then global gender gap report is there, travel and tourism competitive report, global competitiveness report, and global information technology report. Remember this, you can note this down, and you have to mug up all this factual information. ठीक है, याद करके रखना है, फिक्स एकदम. यही क्वेश्चन पूछे जाते हैं बार बार. सो ऑब्वियसली यू हैव एज ओवर अदर स्टूडेंट्स. बार बार इसको रिवाइज करना है हमें. ओके, अगेन आई विल रिपीट हियर. ग्लोबल रिस्क रिपोर्ट, global gender gap report, travel and tourism competitiveness report, global competitiveness report, global information technology report, and in addition to that you add this one, global cyber security outlook 2020. Okay, fine. Yes, now moving on. National Commission for Women. So there was recent meeting of NCW and different issues related to women rights, including recent debate of, we can say, increasing the marriage age of, we can say, girl child and girls. Along with that, also the question related to marital rape, it is in news, it is in debate, and that was debated in that meeting also. But yes, what is important for us for prelims examination about this institution? It was set up in 1992 under National Commission for Women Act 1990. Now this particular act was enacted, and this body as a statutory body. It is a statutory body. So simply it is created with the objective to review the constitutional and legal safeguards for women and to recommend some measures for the welfare of women, protection of rights of women and their dignity. Okay, so this is the objective. Now commission must consist of a chairman, minimum membership we can say, chairman, a member secretary and other minimum 5 members. All of them are nominated by central government. So there is no committee to look into the qualification. There are no qualification mentioned in this act or law. Along with that, simply it is the major criticism of NCW from mains perspective, GS2 paper, polity part, is that it is whatever the chairperson and members, they are actually the political members. ठीक है, जो एक्स एमपी एक्स एमएलएज होते हैं, कोई भी रूलिंग गवर्नमेंट पार्टी जो होती है, उसके मेंबर्स को अपॉइंट कर देते हैं चेयरमैन एंड मेंबर्स बोल के. ठीक है, सो दिस हैज बीन द मेजर क्रिटिसिज्म. अदर वी कैन से दैट देयर इज नो सिक्योरिटी ऑफ टेन्योर, देयर इज नो इंडिपेंडेंस इन टर्म्स ऑफ फाइनेंसेस, सिक्योरिटी ऑफ देयर लेट्स से सैलरी एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स. So that's why it is also major concern. Despite of being the statutory body, all these aspects are not given. Now, although it has power of civil court like any other constitutional and statutory bodies, we can say. Now, commission regularly publishes monthly newsletter named as Rashtra Mahila in both Hindi and English language. Monthly newsletter it is. Rashtra Mahila. Now, first chairman Jayanti Patnaik, the present chairman Rekha Sharma. Although the names are not important, but yes, just awareness. Okay, so this much information is sufficient. It is statutory body, remember that. Convention.
Sir, there is no any legal provision and there is no any qualification of these posts, sir.
No specific qualification. That's why all these ex MPs, MLAs, let's say women workers, political workers, they from the ruling government political parties, they are appointed.
Sir, I have one view on this one, sir. If anybody those are want to give the funds to the government illegally, those are funding to the government, money to the government leaders, they will be appointed. Again, they are getting the salary from the legally from the government institution after joining as a chairman or like that.
After joining?
After joining, they will be draw the money from the legal number from the government and the salaries, expenses and everything they will get from the government.
No, here actually the members of political party only they are appointed, not the donators.
No, sir. They will be draw the money as a salary number if they are appointed in government institution. So by the way, they are by the any other alternative way they are donating money and again they are going to be looting the government institution.
That may be happening informally. Okay, not directly, even indirectly the favorism happens, no.
It may lead to resource rule of government.
Yes, surely that rent seeking nature or behavior that we all know about that. Already that is well established. The corporates funds the government. After coming into the power, the government forms such kind of policy which is favorable to the corporates. So already it is open, not even we can say simply seeking the government salary and all. वो तो अलग बात है, but in open itself it is happening directly.
Sir, if any unethical person has been elected to this type of institution, it may dilute their duties and their powers.
Yes, you can mention like that. Okay, yes. Convention on Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide. So it is Genocide Convention simply. It is international treaty that criminalizes genocide and obligates state parties to enforce its prohibition. Now this was first such international convention under United Nations to codify genocide as a crime, and first human rights treaty unanimously adopted by United Nations General Assembly in 1948. It came into, let's say, being in 1951, or let's say enacted, started working, entered into force, and at present around 152 state parties to this. India has signed and ratified it. Now that particular article on page number 7 discusses about this convention. Although India has signed and ratified it, but no such legal provisions enacted defining what is genocide, how it is going to be prevented, what are the punitive measures in event of such kind of genocide. All these aspects are not covered in the legal jurisprudence, we can say that, and the criminal jurisprudence system in the country. And therefore there is need of such kind of dedicated law, or at least legal provisions included in the criminal law of the country. Okay, so this can be asked in the prelims. If not, then in mains examination you should be aware about that there is no specific law or legal provision for genocide, although India has signed this genocide treaty and ratified it. Okay? So from men's perspective, especially in society part, GS1 paper, there can be question. Also from ethics part, you should be aware about such developments. International conventions, human right convention is there, genocide convention. Okay? Yes. Now, rising sea level prompt Indonesia to relocate capital. So at present, Jakarta is the capital. You can see location of Jakarta on Java Peninsula, and Java Island is there, and obviously there is some kind of concern about sea level rise. The let's say city is facing lot of problem related to flooding. Annual flooding is happening, and there is population high density in the capital, and because of that it has been decided to relocate the capital in Borneo Island, and the name of the capital will be Nusantara. Name of the capital will be Nusantara. You can see here the Borneo Island. This is some part of Borneo. It's part of, we can say, Indonesia. The northern part of Malaysia. So on this, in this region, interior part. So there will be proposed site. It is East Kalimantan, Borneo. This province is East Kalimantan province of Borneo. Okay, so geography mapping perspective, you should be aware, this is Java Sea, this is, you know, the Strait of Malacca, like this. So you should be aware about the locations and all. So this is Strait of Malacca, whatever the oil trade is that is happening from this, the Singapore is located somewhere here, and then the Andaman and Nicobar Islands are located near this, we can say, Malacca Strait. Fine? Okay. This can be used as one of the example for to be written in mains examination. How sea level rise is increasing, affecting island nations. You give this example, and in prelims from geography mapping perspective it can be asked. Name of the capital, Nusantara. Okay. Next one. Yes, there is conflict going on in Yemen. Recently there was, let's say, a drone attack on a particular ship wherein Indians and UAE citizens were killed. India has shown the protest there, and unfortunate incident happened, but the Houthi rebels have claimed the responsibility of this attack. That's why it is in news. Okay. So you should be aware that this is the map of Yemen. You can see this is Gulf of Aden, and this is Marib region. And the fight by Houthis, actually this complete region is now controlled by Houthi remaining. And this Marib region, which is having resources in Yemen, mineral resources, resource rich region is there, Marib, and the fight is going on between Houthi and the Yemenis government, which is supported by UAE and Saudi Arabia. Houthis are actually rebel groups. You should remember some Shia rebels. Okay. So that's why UAE and Saudi Arabia is supporting the Yemen government against this Shia rebels, Houthis. Background here is that after, let's say, Tulip or simply Arab Spring, Tulip Revolution or Arab Spring, we can say, the dictator of Yemen, let's say, resigned from its position, and later on the fight for power started. And the Houthis, which were in minority, they rebelled against the government at that time and wanted to usurp the power. Okay, and this fight is continuously going on since 7-8 years, last 7-8 years in that region. And the country is facing severe, let's say, poverty, unemployment situation, hunger situation. Around, let's say, 75% people in Yemen are we can say facing the problem of poverty. This is the situation in Yemen. Okay, so remember that Houthi rebels in Yemen, Marib region, you should be aware. UPSC asked such question from geography mapping perspective. Once UPSC asked about the disturbed or, let's say, war-torn, civil war-torn regions of this Middle East, West Asia and Northern Africa. Okay, so you should be aware about these regions, mapping perspective.
Same position in Afghanistan today report, sir. They are also facing same problem, sir. Because of previous government has been shifted by Taliban hands now. They are facing World Bank also today declared they are going to be facing more poverty.
Of course.
Get the food also, sir.
Yes. They are going to face the problem. Common people will suffer. Food grains, obviously at present India want to, let's say, give the food grains, and the country like Pakistan, they are not allowing to pass on our trucks of food grains. And because of that also, along with that, the Taliban rule, which is to some extent despotic rule, and that is creating problem there. It will not have some kind of development activities, rather it wants to control the people. ठीक है?
One more thing, sir. If coming days, the reason is fully winter season, sir.
हाँ.
Due to this one, they are they are declaring as a very vulnerable section. We face the Afghanistan people. It may affect to the surrounding countries also. Due to they are going to be unable to stay on that winter season, sir, without food and without shelter.
Yes. So obviously there will be refugee crisis, and that's why the porous borders with the northern neighbors, Central Asian countries, they are concerned there. Okay, refugee crisis is very important there, and that's why they are concerned. Now this question, National Commission for Women, which are the correct statements? What should be answered here?
So 2 and 3 is the correct one. It is a statutory body, sir.
Yes. So first statement, it is neither constitutional nor statutory body. This is incorrect. It is rather statutory body, right? So National Commission for Women Act 1990, under that this body was created or set up in 1992. It consists of 1 chairman and other 5 members. This is correct. They are nominated by central government. Yes, this is also correct. So specific, you should be aware about the statutory provisions. B is correct answer, 2 and 3 only. Okay, fine. Any question?
Sir, I have one doubt on politics related to current affairs politics, sir. Sir, previously anthrax and there was multimedia has been one of the news items coming in today morning, sir. It is a deal is a very fraud way they are engaged with Devas company, Devas multimedia company, due to ISRO by providing the S-band signals to the people. But that agreement has been, it is the present government declared it is a financial fraud. Due to this type of statement, it may give a good effect to the polity as well as the economic growth, sir.
No, whatever the political statements, let it be political. That is not relevant to our examination. Okay, simply objectively we have to analyze that deal. Okay, and that deal we analyzed in previous Sunday's newspaper analysis, where we talked about that. First of all, in the draft CAG report, there were allegations of this corruption and all, but final report of CAB found that there was no corruption involved. Okay, so whatever the allegations of government are there, but there is no proof for that.
So, but those are running on that project. They may give the chance to continue, or they may give the discontinue. They may continue or discontinue by the private companies. It may affect the economic as well as the employment also.
No, that is different, let's say, aspect. Okay, but whatever the deal is there, Devas Antrix deal, so that is not going to get forward, or जो compensation वो demand कर रहे हैं, whatever the compensation they are demanding, it will not be given. Okay, because that deal was not on the good terms, and whatever the terms from both sides, it were not, we can say, complied or satisfied. So that's why it is being said. देखते हैं आगे क्या होता है उसके बारे में, but right now yesterday Supreme Court had said that there will not be Devas company, and it has wound up that company simply directly. Okay. Fine? Okay, let us stop. Fine.